Hello and welcome back again to a new topic in maintenance. Have you ever came across a device, controller, an indicator, or a network switch which stopped working and you have to reboot it back again to make it work? So I was involved in this is the system which is I designed. I was in the APC. I was responsible for a system which consists of 44 flow computers, 7 meter provers, 40 loading arms, and so on. So we built the system, which was great. I designed it, and I went in for the FAT, the factory acceptance test. During the test, or in the beginning of the test, actually, they told me they have a problem with the network switches. They have cabinets for the flow computers and cabinets for the PLC. So they said the network switches stopped working and they have to repeatedly stop them, reboot them, and they work for a while and then they stop working. So I asked them about the power supply. They said because the system actually is 110 volts, the whole system, but the staging facility doesn't have enough 110 power to power all the cabinets. So the PLC is powered by the 110 and all the flow computers with the network switches. They have a transformer takes the 240. The staging area was in England, and they have 110. They power the whole flow computers. So I looked at the network switch. They operate on 110, 220. So I asked them to flip the switch into 220 and disconnect it from the 110 and connect it directly to the 240, which is in England. Or you can call it 220. We proceeded with the test, and within complete 1 month, we didn't have any single failure of one of the switches. So the problem was in the power supply. So what is happening and why I asked them to do it? In fact, I have the same problem before. This is the this is the weight indicator, which I used to make asphalt mixer plants. Out of it connects to a parallel printer, but I changed the output from printing into a standard I/O. I even started to design. I designed my own I/O card and I/O optical isolation and things. So at the end, this unit was perfectly suitable for packing machine, for many other applications. I have a lot of them in my office, and one friend, he asked me for a unit. He wanted to ship it someplace where they use 110. All the units which is in my office was 220. So I designed it, everything went fine, we tested, we shipped it to the client. The client told us its key also stopped working and they have to cycle the power to make it work. So what happened again is this guy, the site is 110, they use a transformer to convert the 110 into 220 and they fed our unit with the 220. So if you look at any device which can work on 110 and 220 or 110 only or 220 only, they need a 60 hertz with the 110 and the 220 should be on 50 hertz. So when we flip the switch between 110 and 220, we flip these 50 to 60 hertz. So let's look what's happened here. What happened is that when they have the 110 and they wanted to convert it and pump it up to 220, they have 60 hertz, 110. They give the unit 220, 60 hertz. The guys in UK, they have 220, 50. When they pump it down, they reduce it to 110. It becomes 110, 50. So that was the problem, that you gave them the correct voltage level, but the wrong frequency. So what is the solution? Solution, can we use a UPS? I think you can use a UPS, but you have to be careful. There is online and there is offline. There is many variation of UPSs. So the first one is online. What's happening is that you have the 110 or the 220 goes into rectifier. The rectifier charge your battery and your super capacitor, and then also it goes into the final stage, which is a converter, which converted the DC back to AC. So in this case, this converter do two things. First is stabilize the output, so you have 120 or 220 stable output, and also with the correct frequency. If your input have a problem, disrupted, you cut the output, the input, then the inverter is fed from the battery. So in this case, you always have here 220 with the correct frequency or 110 correct frequency. Let's look at the offline standby UPSs. What happens is that always your in goes out, and your in feed the rectifier, charging your battery, and then the battery charge your converter. But the converter is not connected to the output until you have a problem in your input. It flips and takes the output from the inverter. So this type, you can see here, if you have 110, you convert it to 220, or 220 convert 110 with the wrong frequency, it shows up here. So this type, you can't use it. There is more other types, so please, before you use any UPS, look at what's the use in this, the internal circuit in the UPS. Some of them, they have a booster converter, which is with auto transformer, which convert a low voltage to a little bit higher, and it feeds. But be careful, this type is not suitable, because what's happened, you have the input goes all the way to the output, and you will only see the good voltage when you have a faulty input. So in conclusion, you have to look at a couple of issues. One of them is not only your voltage level, but also the frequency, the current. Can you receive the full current or not? And the frequency. You have to look at the grounding and be very careful about grounding, because you can actually destroy the whole cabinet with a wrong grounding. There is another issue with voltage. And what's happened is that if you have a strong, big machine feeding from the same input to your PLC, when this machine, big motor, will start, the voltage will drop. If it drops below the shareholder, the voltage which allow the CPU to work, the CPU goes into a shutdown process. Then when your system or your motor have a steady, then the voltage will recover back. So what's happened is your PLC will go into a shutdown, and then it's power back on. So you may face a problem with the memory, and you may destroy your memory in this case. I have seen some PLCs which suffer from program problems when you start and stop big motor from the same supply. So that was our video today. Please leave a comment if you have a problem or similar problem. Please share it with everybody in the channel, and I much appreciate it. And thank you for sharing and leaving a comment, and see you in the next video.